passed by multiple cars, as I mentioned earlier on, so Muoff in a very precarious situation, but he often finds himself in these places. He doesn't qualify as well as he races.
Up front, they are getting with Lee Aberdeen and Luca Varani, not very far apart at all here. But I just want to see how Alistair Haig deals with Marcello Kessler coming around the old hairpin.
I would say it's not the best decision they've ever made, just not having done that under the safety car, really.
Yeah, they're taking their pit stop strategies from Ferrari lately or something. What's going on?
In turn one, just too much gas on them, too much feet on the loud pedal, and unfortunately he's dropped all the way down the order. But Philip Hammer is out in front by an 8.91 seconds. Dan Michael is a wall there, sir. And it definitely doesn't want to be hitting that earlier on as well.
Difficult, the understeer is in the dirty air through that final corner because it's such a long corner and you get dragged off into the grass very easily. He'll have the slipstream down towards the chicane. Peterson was briefly alongside, but that slipstream has saved him and kept him in third.
Yeah, Varani now lost a little bit of time to Aberdeen, about half a second. Peterson is Pike's pushed Morton forward up ahead. He's got out of line. Is now Pike going to have a go at Werrell? Don't push him off. He's in the championship fight. Jack Werrell chasing down Carl Jacklin. Further down, Rob Williams and Chris Barnes.
Sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's come back into play. Exactly. Miller's still start dropping. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Moving on to the back end of Phil Jocelyn. So there's been a lot of movers and shakers in this first 2 laps here for race.
Absolutely serious racing league. Everybody's allowed to have fun. Yeah, it's all about the entertainment. So I hope everybody is enjoying themselves out there in the chat. We know that Ron is been enjoying himself watching. The Burger King machine's off into the grass a little bit there. Is that really bunching up now?
Does he have it?
Medeiros is going to get it.
Oh, look at the toss! They haven't got it!
He's on the outside line though, going into the fastest corner on the circuit. Surely this can't work.
Dominic Ligner has got a sensational run outside line now though for the heavy braking zone. Around the outside goes the Audi R8.
Look how much Miller's caught back into play. Exactly. Miller's still start chopper. He's not on second and change. All of a sudden, Miller's back in play.
Can Barry do it? Big Barry's going to do it! Big Barry!
Booth. Pushing all the buttons will be James Parfitt, and we are here at the Glen for round 5 of season 3 of this ESR GT3 Championship. We've just come across the pond from Le Mans, the 1 hour sunset race that in the end was won by Aiden Neat. Second place man Yannis Albert leads the championship as we get here into Watkins Glen, and we can have a bit of a look at the championship standings for you. There isn't too much longer in qualifying. But I can tell you for a fact that the man currently leading the standings, Yannis Albert, is currently on a provisional pole time. We have got in P2 in the standings, just behind him, not too far behind at all, in a very close championship battle, is of course Luke Lucchese. Ewan Stitchbury in P3 with Thomas Pugh and Matt Hoyland in 4 and 5. Henry Knackery, Christoph Demay, Tristan Dinnebrega, Paul Cowlishaw, and John Breitenbacher in the top 10. Paul Robson is in 11th. And Aiden Neat, fresh off that win. Just the one win, just the one set of points. Got him up to P12 already. In the Evo standings, though, bit of a tighter picture. Joe Glass leads the way. James Rankin is in P2, 43 points back. Matthew Jones not far away either, with Gary Mitchell and Nathan Crook in the top 5. Rob McKee, Javier Talavera, Robin Aston, Stephen Donnelly and James Bostock are in the top 10, with Dennis Collar and Ashley Brooks nipping at the heels of that top 10 group. In the Teams Championship, there was a bit of change after last week's race at Le Mans. Joe Glass and Matthew Jones in the Glass Tech cars still leading the way, but lead has been reduced, I think it's fair to say, ahead of Yannis Albert and Piers Berry in the Lapani racing cars. Dinnebrega and Lucchese in the ISA Motorsport cars. They're in P3 with Demay and Stitchbury in P4. Paul Robson and James Rankin for the CHR Motorsport team are in P5 with DXT Motorsports, Ludwig Racing, JSD, Petek GP2 and Bral Broges are in the top 10. So, you know, only one more thing to look over. It's the instant ratings, and at the moment it's Aiden Neat who's got the cleanest, but I don't think he had anybody to touch in the last race, and he's only done the one. So he's currently got the cleanest record with John Breitenbach, Thomas Pugh, Victor Brown and Joe Sparrow in the Premier class at the moment, on track to pick up these iRacing vouchers. But we've got James Rankin, Matthew Jones, Rob McKee, Graham Matthew and Joe Glass in the Evos, who have got the cleanest instant ratings so far. But James, the Glen, it's a different challenge. It's not necessarily one that gives us overtaking opportunities, but, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how some of these guys cope. 2 30-minute races, top 13 reversed after race 1 for race 2. A lot can happen here, can't it? Yes, and it will be Yannis Albert, the championship leader, who will lead us away in race 1. Luke Lucchese, I think he's the P2 man in the championship. Indeed he is. He will be P2 in this race. Henry Knackery will start P3. Christoph Demay is in P4, but good results for Joe Glass and Javier Talavera, the 2 Evo drivers in 5th and 6th. Paul Cowlishaw and Piers Berry, Thomas Pugh and Matt Hoyland in the top 10. Ewan Stitchbury and Robin Aston are 12th. The all-important 13th place in race 1 is currently held by Ryan Ottens, but the likes of Joe Sparrow and Jamie Rees will be hoping to take that off of him and take reverse grid pole. Alex Fretwell, Stephen Donnelly, John Breitenbach, Daniel Nans and Marcel Breitenbach are in the top 20, with Robin Hamilton, Scott Koskricht, Hussein Sarika Dessler and James Bostock rounding out the top 24. Paul Robson, Jamal Gandor, Gary Mitchell, Joseph Preston, Matt Barnett and Graham Matthew in the top 30. Then we've got James Rankin, Russell Jakes, Dennis Collar, Gareth Newton, Ashley Brooks and James Pallow in 36th. And we've got, looking back, Chris Keenum, Danny Weir, Tristan Dinnebrega, Peter Cox, Alex Konradt and Danny Svitzer in 42nd place. And that is all the cars that we have. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's a bit of a small grid from what we're used to. We've had 48, 49 cars consistently so far this season, James, but 42, that's still a lot of room for absolute chaos as you set up the S's.
Do you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, they've got to be careful. They've got to be mindful of what's going on here as well. So, yeah, it should be an interesting one.
Yeah, hopefully it will be. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how the front guys get away. I think when they get us underway in just a few seconds time. But yeah, I mean the guys at the back, they're always going to be aware, aren't they? Because of course with the top 13 being reversed, I mean if one of these front guys has a bit of a mare in race 1, they could find themselves right the way at the back in race 2. It's something that we saw at Sebring with Piers Berry a couple of weeks ago. But we'll see Yannis Albert come around the final corner. Lucchese will be hoping to get a bit of a jump as we get ready to get going here at the Glen. With 30 minutes of racing in race 1, the lights are on. When will Yannis Albert decide to take us away? I think we're racing now as we run our way down towards turn 1. It'll be Albert controlling the inside line. He doesn't have to worry about anybody fighting him into turn 1 because Henry Nackery is the one on the offensive on the inside of Lucchese, but he hasn't been able to make his way through. They'll come up through the S's as they all file themselves one, maybe two wide through the pack. Relatively single file as they run their way up through this on towards the back straight, but it's a good start from Yannis Albert. He looks like he's away, and they're really single file here. I'm not too sure where this incident could come from, if any, but Yannis Albert, important start away from the front.
Yeah, absolutely. He had to fly. He had to basically try and get away as much as he possibly could. And the last thing he really needed was to be caught up in Lucchese or in Nackery there as well. So there was a lot he had to contend with, and there's a lot that he just needed to do. And whatever he did do, he just did well. He's cleared the front of the queue. He's left all of these guys from the top 10 with a gap to try and hold on to as well. And for Yannis Albert, he's just got to keep it set as it is now.
Yeah, we saw 2 weeks ago at Sebring that he led from pole and led every single moment, realistically, of the 30 minutes in race 1 at Sebring. We'll have to see if he can replicate it this time around, but he would again start from P13 in race 2, so we'll have to work his way through them. But we'll see here. Matt Hoyland looking for a move maybe on Albert's teammate Piers Berry, and we'll get that move. Oh no, there's contact there into the wall. That's a rear wingle, and that's a lot of damage from Matt Hoyland. It's exactly what we were mentioning, that if you make a mistake near the front, going to cost you big time. I don't know if did he think he had the position?
I think he thought he had the position. The problem was he didn't have the position, and that's going to be the issue. And I think at the end of the day, it's one of them things that is a problem here as well. Not quite sure why all of a sudden we've got this issue with Carl's doing that. I don't quite understand. I will carry on fighting fires for a minute. You just carry on talking for a minute, buddy.
Yeah, I think we've had it a couple of rounds before. I think it's something to do with all the cars being very near to each other, something like that. We've had it a couple of rounds before, and we've managed to push through, so hopefully should be good. But you can just about see Albert is on the screen, just about, but he is definitely in the lead ahead of Lucchese. They've built a bit of a gap back to Henry Nackery at the moment. It does look like it might start to be a 2-horse race at the front. But the gaps realistically that we're looking at, Paul Colashaw in P6 is 2.5 behind Joe Glass, and Ewan Stitchbury is 2.5 behind Javier Talavera. So they're the main gaps in this top 28 really at the moment. We'll have to see if they come under a little bit of pressure from the cars behind. But second lap we are on. Christophe Demay looking menacing in that very nice purple and black car on the back of Henry Nackery. I mean, James, there's some lovely liveries in this series that we'll be able to see over the course of the hour. Hussein Saraka Dessler maybe having a bit of a moment at the back, dropping a few positions back to P30, but doesn't look like he's shipping too many more at the moment. But yeah, it's a pretty mundane start so far. Not too many moves at the front, but they all know that, in race 2 they're going to be further back if they finish where they are, so it might just be worth to consolidate where they've got now, get the points, and then go for it in race 2.
I think that's the thing. They don't want to be pushing and doing anything ridiculous. I think as soon as you start doing something ridiculous, you're going to have a problem. And it's no surprise that, well, to be fair, it is a surprise that we actually didn't have a problem either. And I think that's the thing. I think they've got to be sensible about the moves they're going to make. Yes, it's slightly important to get into the top 13. That's a given, right? You want that, try and get that reverse pole. You want to be up there. That's fine. We all fully understand that. But you've got to do it in a sensible way and not necessarily in the way that it can cause a problem for you. You've got to think about what you're trying to do here. For Yannis Albert, he's just doing what he needs to do, right? He's just trying to get away, have some fun and escape. But for everyone here, like Ryan Otton's in the middle with Ewan Stitchbury and Pierce Berry, they've also got to be mindful of what's going on as well, because they need to start trying to move their way forward. They've got Joe Sparrow. He is leading a pack at the moment with Robin Ashton, Thomas Pugh. You got Stephen Donnelly, Alex Fretwell. They're all involved. They're all near or near around him, so he's got to be on the edge and make sure that he can get on with what he's going to do. Doesn't want to get caught up here either, and Talavera, he's escaping as well a little bit here, and at the same time he's making good gaps to Ewan Stitchbury behind.
Yeah, and Ewan Stitchbury, so I think that Talavera could gap. I think Talavera's been consistency below Stitchbury, but he's always been there or thereabouts in the Evo fight, and that's what he's doing here so far. Just the one place behind Joe Glass in class, of course. Might serve him well as we go through, but yeah, on Ryan Otton's, I think he started in P13, so he's made a very good start up to P9, giving himself a little bit of a buffer back to those guys who are fighting and scrapping over that final reverse grid position. But we will see how it all pans out. Of course, only the first 5 minutes in this 30-minute race, so a long way to go here as Talavera climbing over the curves. A lot of these guys really climbing over the curves as you see quite a lot. I think NASCAR's a good example, isn't it? When they go into turn one, it's just almost like that. Any part of concrete is the track.
with NASCAR, it is. It's pretty much. I saw him at COTA, and it was absolutely crazy. You know, and it was literally insane. They were literally running parts of the circuit that shouldn't have even been part of the circuit, but they were running, and it was just unbelievable strangeness how they cannot be deemed as track limits.
Oh, absolutely. We have to see some of the more examples here. I think there were a couple of times, I think it was down into the heel. They're all going very wide, but they must be allowed to get away with it because they keep doing it, of course. You're going to do it if you can gain an advantage as a racing driver, so what would stop you realistically? So we'll see if Yanis does it this time around. But really, Yanis Wilbert and Tracy very much gapping Henry Nackery behind. 1.8 seconds now was that gap. It was only 7/10 a couple of laps ago, so they really are pulling that gap out well as we see them all run through down towards the toe again. Yeah, they are at the trying to. I think at the moment for these guys as well, you've got to look at and think about what the situation is. Nackery here as well, obviously for his point of view and for his perspective. You know, he wants to try and hold on to where he is. He's got DeMay right behind him, and he's got Joe Glass a second up the road in that Porsche there. So Ewan Stitchbury is also in the mix here as well with Thomas Pugh once this all settles down here, hopefully as well. But at the end of the day, you know, it's all about now game. It's all about what you've got to do within your gamemanship. It's all about what you've got to do within your car, within your ability, within your work. Because what they don't want to do is try and make moves and end up losing positions. Because that is not going to be a good way of doing it. No, it's not, and that's what we could see, where we could see some mistakes come from. A couple of pitters early on here. Thomas Pugh and Stephen Donnelly coming in. Of course, one mandatory pit stop for all of these guys in the 30 minutes. Could someone try and undercut and overcut? Maybe we'll have to see when these front guys decide to pit. But we have seen over the last few races, the vast majority come in about half distance, whatever lap is closest to 15 minutes. So we might see that replicated again. But Albert and Lucchese, they're really in a bit of a cat and mouse battle on their own here. It's worth remembering that the point system here in ESR is so that race 2's points are worth more than race 1's. A win in race 1 will give you 50 points, but the win in race 2 will give you 65. So there's always that game as well that, you know, if you start in a higher position in race 2, maybe not going for that move on the car at the end of race 1, you give yourself a better chance of even better points in race 2.
Yeah. But you've got to weigh up the rough with the smooth, right? You've either got to look at and sit back and go, well, what can I do about it? What's the situation? What's my option? What can I do here as well? Because he's got to sit back and think about the main aim of what they're trying to achieve here, you know, and they really want to make sure that they're going to get it all correct and everything will be fine and they're not going to have any issues. So it's always that decision on what to kind of do in the best scenario or the best race that you're in.
Yeah, it's definitely what they're going to be having to think about throughout this race. But with these two fighting, there's some good trains for him. I mean, Ewan Stitchbury's got Ottens and Berry right on his tail. Fretwell with Brighton back and Nans on his tail. And through the mid-pack as well. Lots of long trains. I mean, Fretwell all the way down to Joao Gandor, really. They're pretty close together. We might see some jostling for position in the pit stop phase for those guys. But, I mean, of course, Albear and Lucchesi are leading the race and, of course, the Premier class. But in the Evo class, Joe Glass and Javier Talavera, and even Robin Aston here, they could really do well in terms of the championship here this evening by managing to try and keep all the points for themselves. I mean, if Robin Aston can try and get into that reverse grid and even in the top 5 of the reverse grid, that's going to be far better for him than the likes of Robert Hamilton, James Bostock, who are going to be starting towards the back end of the top 20.
Yeah, trying to open up a gap is always the best way to be, I think, and I think that's the situation that they've got to try and do. You want to make sure that you're putting as many people between you and the cars in front, and you know that they've got to. That's what they've got to try and achieve. You've got to make sure that you have got gaps between you and the cars in your class, because otherwise you could end up having problems. So the more gap that you can put, the better off it will be here for these guys as well. So hopefully they should be okay.
Yeah, Henry Nackery is going to be starting to dread that gap in front of him, just growing. 2.7 seconds now is the gap. Maybe thinking about what he could try and do in the pit stop phase. But, I mean, undercuts and overcuts aren't too powerful unless you pull yourself out of traffic or wait until there's no traffic in front of you on the overcut. So, yeah, it's going to be difficult for Henry Nackery, but of course, at this rate, he'll start ahead of these two in race 2, so he has the opportunity to try and defend that position. It can be somewhat easier to defend a position here at Watkins Glen. There aren't really too many heavy braking zones, and when there are the heavy braking zones, they aren't really at places that you'd associate with overtaking. I mean, looking at the toe, there's a very, very short straight between turn 6 and turn 7, which is the toe. Turn 1 is quite a fast downhill right-hander, so there isn't too much room for overtaking here, so track position could be key, particularly in race 2, even if you've got faster drivers behind somewhat slower drivers.
Yeah. I think always at the end of the day, when you've got them faster drivers, you need to be as far ahead from them as you possibly can, because at the end of the day, you know they're going to be coming, right? And you know they're going to be coming at you absolutely flying. So you know you've got to make sure that whatever you're trying to achieve, you get it over and done with and get it done, because otherwise you will end up having problems. And we've got a nice little battle down here with Stitchbury, Ottmans, Berry, Reese, Ashton and Spara all fighting it out as well here.
Defending there, it looks like, from Stitchbury on the exit of the toes. They run down towards their heel, but yeah, I mean, it's very, very close back here, isn't it? Stitchbury, it's just 2 tenths of the gaps back to the drivers behind. Ryan Ottens hoping for yet another position. Started P13, trying to work his way up even further. Jamie Rees is also going to be one of those cars just sitting in there waiting, trying to pick his way through. And for Robin Aston, these guys aren't really his race in terms of the fact that in the point system, he's going to get P3 in the Evo class, while these guys are fighting over, you're looking at P8, P9 in Premier class. So he's just got to be careful not to get caught up in an incident here, as we see Stitchbury and Berry into the pit lane a little bit earlier than the rest. Spar will follow them in as well. Now we're going to see whether the overcut or the undercut would work for those who stayed out or for those guys who's pitted.
I think the overcut, I think for these guys, the undercut only ever works is if you can come out in clean air. And if you can come out in clean air, you should be okay. And I think that's the thing. These guys, Pierce, Berry, Stitchbury and everybody else, they're just in the pits at the moment as well. So you see where they're coming out. If they come out within a certain amount of traffic around them, being where they come in, they're going to get caught up in lots of it. So they've got to be aware of what they're trying, you know, what they're going to come out in front of. If you're going to come out in front of clean air, you've got to make sure you're going to make the most of it. And at the moment, I think Stitchbury is, well, they're fighting over the pit lane exit there as well. Thomas Pugh, Joe Sparrow is in there as well, but I think there might have been Pierce Berry, as they're still scrapping away now here as well, going up through the S's and into that bus stop.
Yeah, I wonder whether Pierce Berry just got to stop in the box or whatever that was, but they did come out side by side, didn't they? As we now see going side by side up towards the into the chicane, and Thomas Pugh is just watching this thinking, what has happened in front of me? Because he had a nice clear track, and all of a sudden he's got these two squabbling over what currently is P23, but after the pit stops is likely to be in the range of P8, P9. So Pierce Berry defending well, now leads Ewan Stitchbury, and he can try and see if he can pull away a little bit as we make our way through. You can see the Evo class top guys on your left hand side. Glass, Oliveira, Aston top 3. Bostock and Preston, they're near to each other, and they're currently 4th and 5th in class. Talavera's coming into the pit lane now, so we'll have to see which parts of this train have worked out better on the pit stops. I mean, we're not yet half distance in race 1, as we see Derry having to defend from Stitchbury, and he'll do that with ease. But yeah, I mean, pit stops are happening a little bit earlier than half distance, which is not something we've seen so far, but that could be pressure brought on by these guys really pitting early.
Yeah, it could be, and I think it depends on whether or not they feel that they're going to be able to make it as well. You know, if they've got to make sure that they're going to get to the end, they've got to do it clean. They've got to make sure that every little bit of track that they ring out here, they ring out properly. And that's the thing, because they can't be hanging around once you're coming out of the pits. For Collishaw here as well, he's come out behind David Weir, so unfortunately he's still going to have, you know, David Weir in front of him, and Paul Collishaw's got to try and make the best of it. Collishaw is the highest pitted car at the moment, sitting in 16th overall, 10th in Premier Class. So hopefully for him, he will be the first one to start getting the people in front of him who are pitting there as well.
Yeah, he's got to clear Danny Weir quickly, though, as they come now through that chicane down towards the outer loop at turn 5. We'll have to see if he can get through quickly, because he really does need to. It could affect his race if he gets stuck behind Danny Weir for too long. Yeah, very, very bright pink rear end of that Ferrari that Danny Weir is driving. I don't think Paul Collishaw will be too pleased to just see a wash of pink directly in front of him as he makes his way through the toe. They'll come up towards the hill. Does he get a good enough exit? I mean, he's close. I don't quite think he's close enough to make a lunge here. He looks to the inside, but pulls back to the racing line as they get into the hill. But got to start to be careful. I mean, Piers Berry, a couple of cars behind him on track, and you know, he's realistically who is racing at the moment for Paul.
Yeah, this is the thing at the moment as well, right? For Paul Collishaw, everybody pretty much, apart from Joseph Preston, has gone into the pits. David Weir, Paul Collishaw is the last possible man that can take some of these positions from Way. Albert's out. Lucchese's coming out as well. So Collishaw is not gaining as much as he should do here as well. It's going to be interesting to see where Collishaw comes out. He comes out 7th overall at the moment.
Come out 7th overall as we make our way through. I mean, there's big gaps for me. I mean, between Collishaw and Enquiries, 6 seconds of a gap at the moment. So it's big advantages from the guys further up. But of course, it's all going to disappear when we reset the grid, the top 13 in reverse. So that's definitely something we're going to have to think about. Or these guys particularly going to have to think about. I mean, Paul Collishaw, yes, albeit he's going to be a long way behind Henry Nackery now, but he'll be ahead of Henry Nackery, Christophe the Mighty Fraser and Albert. Once we restart for race 2, everyone gets bunched back up again onto the grid. 13th becomes 1st, and 1st becomes 13th. So there's opportunities for these guys, and we've seen it in early races so far this season, where the quickest car in race 1, particularly Albert, hasn't come away with the most amount of points throughout the evening, because that traffic in race 2 really doesn't help, and you can make mistakes. Yeah,
you've got to manage traffic sensibly, and if you don't manage traffic sensibly, you're always going to cause yourself a problem. And that's the thing, if he causes himself a problem and takes himself out or hits somebody, then it's going to be an issue, and then he isn't going to get points. So it doesn't matter if he runs ahead and absolutely smashes the win in race 1, but if he can't handle traffic in race 2, it's all over for him anyway.
And we saw at Sebring, Yannis Albert won, I think, race 1 by about 10 seconds, give or take. Race 2, I mean, he tried to get through traffic. There were a couple of incidents. He got caught up in a couple of spins and a couple of little taps from the drivers, and came home, I think, in the NP8 in class and didn't win the round overall in terms of points. I believe Christophe de Mai won the most amount of points by finishing something like 3rd and 3rd in the races. So it's that consistency during the 2 races that is important. You can be the fastest. Albert was on pole. He's winning at the moment, albeit not by much. Lucchese is right behind him, but you can be the fastest, but not pick up the most amount of points. And it all comes down to how you get through that traffic in race 2, which is why race 2 is so important here, especially as it has those higher points for each position. But as we make our way through, Paul Collishaw still defending from Piers Berry here, who is closing and closing. ever much so as we come through with 12-13 minutes left of this race. But I mean, yeah, it's going to be interesting here just to see what the likes of Yannis Albert and Lucchesi do at the end of this race. Do they try and play games with the win here? I mean, they're close enough to maybe make the move.
Well, it's a err on the side of caution or 0 to 0, isn't it? That's going to be the issue. You've got to think for these guys up the front what they actually believe is going to cause the, be the best for them. I don't know if Albert wanting to start in front of Lucchesi is better, but at the same time, I'm also aware that you want the win. They want to win, right? You show me a racing driver like Yannis Albert who doesn't want to win.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you just want to take every point you can when they get given to you, don't you? So, I mean, 50 points in the bag for Yannis Albert would not be a bad feat, and he'll always back himself to get through on Lucchesi, you'd say, in race 2. So we'll have to see how that all decides to develop. Paul Cullishaw still defending here from Piersbury as they make their way down into turn 1 once again. Going a little bit wide off the track, using all of the curb and more. You can see in the background there, I think it's Thomas Pugh using loads of room on the outside there, but you can see Piersbury really lurking, really gaining on this back straight down towards the chicane. Can he try and make the move here? He's got a good slipstream on the back of Paul Cullishaw in that monster car, but is he going to be able to make the move? It's difficult, very difficult, particularly around the outside at this chicane, with it being so fast. You have to be so committed for the move. And he's not quite gone for it just there. So, he's still got chances. He's still got a few laps to try and make that move stick. But again, even if he doesn't make that move stick, he'll start further up. So there is that give and take.
Yeah, it's always hard at a reverse grid. It's always positioning yourself in the right place at the right time. You're either going to be in the wrong either way. You want to sit back and think, right, okay, I'm here. I'm going to be able to move myself up, and I'm going to be able to do it. And then all of a sudden you make the decision, you sit back and think, well, actually, hold on, if I just sit here, I'm here and I score this points, but I've got a more chance going forward in the reverse. And if you start doubting yourself and thinking about it all in all like that, you are definitely going to be sitting back thinking, okay, what am I doing here? Because otherwise you're just going to muddle yourself up completely. And I think that's the problem at the moment as well, is they don't want to be muddling themselves up.
No, exactly. They'll be trying to focus on not making any mistakes, because of course, I mean, you could still make that error that could drop you below P13, and realistically then your race is, or your evening is more over than it was, much more over than it was before you made the mistake, because you then can't use that reverse grid to your advantage. You've got to start much further back than you were going to. But Lucchesi, look at this, gaining in that Porsche down in towards the chicane. Not going to make a move this time around. Still going to stick behind. Sorry, not a Porsche, in the Audi. Sorry, as they make their way through now through turn 5. But yeah, I mean, 8 minutes to go in race 1, and these two do look like the class field, don't they, at the moment? But it's going to be important to see how they make their way through in race 2. A little incident at the start of the race could drop them back 10-15 more positions, and with it being so difficult to overtake here in comparison to other tracks on the calendar, really, cripple their points for the evening. Might see some other guys take maximum effect.
Yeah, they just, I don't really know what the idea is. It's always very, very hard with the reverse anyway. And it's always very, very hard in general. And for Nakari here as well, he's fighting away with DeMay. So it's, what do you do? Joe Class is going to take the Evo win, and he's quite far ahead of Robin Aston. Aston seemed to struggle a little bit more in the pit lane there. But I don't know with these. You've got to sit back and think, okay, you're in a car with GT3s. There is a lot more going on as well. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot more with a GT3 than there is with others. So you've got to be mindful of that situation at the same time. So I think at the moment, they're just going to have to play it by ear.
Yeah, indeed, because Can't really tell at the moment. I mean, P13. I'm not too sure who's P13 at the moment. I mean, we've got the classes up on the left-hand side, but P13 is the all-important. Could be either. I think it's around Stephen Donnelly, as we now see Christoph de Mai really defending that inside line as they come down towards the chicane. Henry Nackery, the Finnish driver on the outside, not able to make the move as they make their way through, and that Porsche still defending, still holding that position stoutly as we go through. Only a few minutes left. 6 to go then in this race, and of course. There is no 30 minutes plus a lap, but it's 30 minutes, and however much time it is to finish the lap, they are on. We'll have to try and see how many laps there are going to be, but I do think there are probably going to be 3 at the end of this one. We might squeeze in a 4th, but it's going to be very, very close to see that. But at the moment, we have got this battle for P1 and 2, and then P3 and 4, but then the gaps between 2nd and 3rd and 4th and 5th are just huge at the moment.
Yeah, unfortunately. There's 5 seconds back to Joe Glass. There's another 6 behind Paul Collishaw. So Joe must think he's out on a Sunday drive at the moment because he's got people in front well up the road. He's got people behind that are well up the road as well. And that's the thing. And for him, he's just got to stay committed, stay concentrated for Joe, because otherwise it could all just go a little bit wrong and then he is all confused, isn't he? And I think for Joe, he's just got to make sure that he's, there. He's got to make sure he's in the right place at the right time, but at the same time he's got to obviously be a bit more conscious of his surroundings when it comes to the reverse grid, because obviously he's going to be a little bit further up.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he's got to think about. I've just edged on the timing tower there, but Joe Glass, P5 overall. That's a fantastic effort from him so far. The Evo driver really putting it to quite a few of the Premier drivers here, showing his class in the Evo category. Unfortunate for Javier Talavera, he was right up near the front, wasn't he? I think he started P5, P6, but he's now at the back in P23, so really unfortunate for him, but Joe Glass and Robin Aston are going to be happy if this continues, because Robin Aston could start P2 here. And even if Joe Glass starts back, and I think that would be P8, I do believe, he's still going to have quite a few cars between himself and Stephen Donnelly for P3. So it's really looking good for Joe Glass to extend that Evo lead as we make our way through. And of course in the Teams Championship, himself and his teammate, Matthew Jones, for the Glass Tech Racing team, they're going to be very pleased about how it's going so far.
Yeah. I think Joe Glass is going to sit there smiling at the moment, rubbing his hands together, because I think he's going to be wanting to know that obviously he's well ahead of everybody else. He's leading the Evo, he's leading everything else, and he's got plenty of time to get stuff sorted out and hopefully be able to help his teammate in some shape or form, or do something that he's got for the Glass Tech Racing boys. But they're going to be smiling. They're going to get a chunk of points, aren't they, at the end of the day?
Yeah, and I hope to get a nice big trophy as well for a championship. So have to see how they do. Of course, this race, there are 9 rounds. This is the 5th round. So after we leave Watkins, you could argue that at the end of this race will be halfway through the season. But I think more points were won in the first half than will be won in the second half. So we're about halfway in the championship. Either way, we're going to get a much better picture of where the championship fights lay, with only 4 rounds to go after this race. We go to Suzuka, I believe, next week, and that'll be a 1 hour long sunset race. And then we go to Mugello, Kota and Bathurst to round out the season. But opportunity's still ahead, but with every race that passes, every point that goes a begging for some of these drivers, it just reduces their ability to move up in the championship, and they're going to be thinking about that as they go through. 2.5 minutes left in this race. I think we could get... I think we might get 2 more laps in here.
Yeah, you're going to get at least...
Depends where all Bear is.
Yeah, I think he's flying at the moment as well. He's coming off through down to turn 8 at the moment. It's Yannis Allbear. So, he what have we got? 2:27. He's going to have about 2 minutes. He's doing 1:43. We might be on the final lap.
Yeah, I think we'll probably get 1 more here, because I think because we do the 30 minutes and then finish the lap we are on. I think Yannis Allbear won't make that on time to have 2, so I think it'll just be 1 more lap after this one. But he's coming out to a little bit of traffic here, lap traffic. At the moment, I do believe that is going to be Matt Williams and Ashley Brooks. Yeah, final lap now. But yeah, it's always a little bit worrying, isn't it, when you're the leader? You're just thinking you've got to bring it home to the end. You've got a car not too far behind you. You're in the lead, 1 lap to go, but you see some traffic in front of you.
Yeah, you're sitting there praying that they move out the way, right? You want them to be well out of the way by the time you know, there. You know, in an ideal world, he'd love for them to pull over and let them through on the back straight, but they haven't. So now he's got to look at picking his moment there as well to get it through. So, yeah, for Yanis, he's got a bit of a challenge, but he has got, as I say, the final lap of the race for him. So he needs to make sure he can get it to the end.
Yeah, it's not far away, is he? I mean, corners are counting down now. I mean, Lucchesi a little bit off the back now. Albert's going to set a very quick final lap, it seems. And he might just about stay clear of these back markers with only 4 more corners to go for him. But he'll just extend his championship lead even further. He's got a nice, comfortable margin out the front of the field in that Lepeni Racing car. And it's going to extend that a little bit further. He's hoping to wrap it up as quickly as he possibly can. He doesn't really want it to go to Bathurst if he can help it. It's 115 points up for grabs in the final round, as is here. So he'll be hoping to lead by more than that by the time we go all the way to Australia and down under for the final round of the season. So he'll come around the final corner now. It's been a very, very dominant display. Lucchesi's been close, but he's been nowhere near close enough to try and make a move here. And Yanis Albert will cross the line, and he will win the opening race here this evening at Watkins Glen. Lucchesi will come home P2, and Christophe Demay will just about hold off Henry Nackery for P3 and P4 in a very, very close finish between those two. They were close all the way through the second half of the race, weren't they?
Then they swapped places 4 times on the final lap. Joe Glass is going to come over and take the Evo victory here as well. So Glass taking the Evo there. But yeah, they literally swapped places 4 times over that last half of that lap.
Good battling then between the two of them through the final sectors here at Watkins Glen. But Demay will come out on top, and he will come away with more points in race 1, but he will come out with the worst starting position for race 2. Joe Glass, like you said, wins Evo, P5 overall, with Paul Colashaw, Piers Berry, Thomas Pugh, Joe Sparrow and Jamie Rees in the top 10. But yeah, fantastic opening race. It just gives us even more of an incentive just to see what's going to happen in race 2 when we've got that top 13 reversed, because it's going to be a little bit more difficult for those guys like Yanis Albert, Luke Lucchesi make their way through the circuit like Watkins Glen, but they've really shown they've got the pace, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. I want to see how they come through the field. I think when you're trying to come through the field, as we can see there, they've got a couple of people together there as well. And Paul Robson and has Hamilton there. Hamilton's all a little bit squirrely. And just makes it there as well. So, yeah. But we will have the results for you for race 1 very, very shortly. We're just waiting for the last of the finish. Here's Darragh as well.
It will be Yanis Albert who takes victory in race 1. Luke Lucchesi coming home in a very solid P2, and we'll start from P12, just in front of Yanis Albert. Christophe Demay, Henry Nackery, and Joe Glass, P3, 4 and 5. Fantastic finish from Joe Glass in the end. Full credit to him. And he wins the Evo class in race 1. Paul Colashaw, Piers Berry, Thomas Pugh, Joe Sparrow, and Jamie Rees are in the top 10. Tristan Nobrega didn't have the best of qualifying, but found his way into that reverse grid top 13 and will start from P3. Keep an eye out for him in race 2. Robin Aston will be very pleased that he will start from P2. He'll be the lead driver in the Evo class as he got P12 in race 1. And John Breitenbach will be on reverse grid pole in his BMW. Alex Fretwell, Marcel Breitenbach, Peter Cox and Ewan Stitchbury were in the top 17. James Bostock, James Rankin and Gary Mitchell round up the top 20. Javier Talavera, disappointing for him to drop outside of that top 13, but he finishes in 21st with Hussein Sarika Dessler in P22. Dennis Collar, Graham Matthews, Scott Cosrick, Ryan Ottens, who was right up near the front for a while, finished in 26th. Chris Keenan in 27th. Gareth Newton, Paul Robson, Robert Hamilton in the top 30 with James Pallow, Matt Barnett, Daniel Nans, Matt Hoyland, Danny Weir, Jamal Gandor, Ashley Brooks, Alex Coenratz, and Russell Jakes and Stephen Donnelly in the top 40. And then it was just Joseph Preston and the final driver, a couple of drivers, I think, Danny Svitzer, I think, right at the bottom of the order there, but I think they DNF'd pretty early on. But, you know, race 2 here, James, this really could be, an exciting one.
Yeah, reverse grids are always exciting. That's the thing. They're always, always, always exciting. So to see the likes of Yannis Allbert coming through the field, it's going to be a very interesting scenario for them guys. And if he doesn't make it through, then that's what's going to cause him an issue. Let's hope he does.
Yeah, and he will very much hope to get us away cleanly once again, or this time in race 2. I mean, Bear really will be trying to fight his way through from P13. He's got to be careful not to make a mistake. We've seen a couple of mistakes in race 1 has cost some drivers quite dearly. The likes of Talavera, who of course were at the front, but now drop all the way back to the back of the field. But you know, I think this is going to be interesting. It's going to be important for the championship as well. Like we've said, going into next week at Suzuka, it's going to be another 1 hour race where there's only one set of points. This could be a good opportunity for some of the guys further back, your likes of Tristan Obrega, who've worked their way inside the top 13 to really pick up points where they maybe didn't think they were going to this evening.
Yeah. You've got to grab the opportunity when it arises, and if you've been given an opportunity to get points and grab points, then you want to go and take them, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to leave anything on the table. You want to make sure that you can go and sort of say to yourself, I've done everything possible. So if people are going to give you that option within their reverse grids or within race 2, and they're going to go out and stack it and crash into each other, you want to make sure you're going to capitalize on it as well.
Yeah, and that's the name of the game. Particularly in a series where it's always nice and fun, where you have the reverse grid race actually gives you more points than the qualifying grid race. So yeah, it's a very nice and interesting point system. Creates quite a lot of battles, particularly in race 2, and we've seen it well at the Sebring and the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Well, we've had our two race evenings. Of course, the other 2 races at Spa and at Le Mans were 1 hour sunset races where you got 100 for the win, rather than just 50 or 65. So yeah, I mean, it's been interesting so far this evening. We've not quite had the chaos that we have sometimes had the likes of Sebring so far this season, but the Glen, it kind of serves you that, doesn't it? I mean, it can be a track where qualifying is important, or just trying to get the move done early. Race strategy can be very important because moves are not as easy to come by.
No. I find that in a way that you watch some series and moves, you can have moves anywhere, right? I mean, you know, we both watched series where people have sent it up the inside, they've sent it here, there and everywhere. But this seems to be a very more conservative, you know, we saw single file through the S's early on. We've seen, you know, lots of nice racing, as I put it, rather than what you would expect from this amount of cars here as well.
Actually, that Piers Berry may have disconnected here, which is not ideal, particularly for Yannis Allbert, his teammate, in their team championship. But yeah, that's not looking good for Piers Berry. We'll have to see if we can try and reconnect, but not long left in warm-up, so not looking good for him. Yeah, but race 2 about to get underway. Warm-up just about ending now, so we will get to see race 2 getting underway very shortly, and we'll have to see how the likes of Yannis Allbert and Luke Tracy work their way through. But Tristan Obrega, definitely one to watch, as I mentioned, who will start P3 as we make our way through. But here is the grid. John Breitenbach will lead us away. Robin Aston in P2 with Tristan Obrega and Jamie Rees in P4. Joe Sparrow, Thomas Pugh, Piers Berry and Paul Cowlishaw in the top 8. Joe Glass, Henry Nackery, Christophe Demay, Luke Lucchese and Yannis Allbert are the rest of that reverse grid section of this order. And then, of course, it is where they finish. Fretwell finished 14th. We'll start 14th. Same for Marcel Breitenbach. And as we go down, Cox, Stitchbury, Bostock, Rankin and Mitchell in the top 20. Talavera, Sarah Cadesla, Collar and Graham Matthew will start from P24. We'll see if any of these Evo guys can kind of get a bit of a march on people around them. Scott Kostrick, Brian Ottens, Chris Keenan, Gareth Newton, Paul Robson, Robert Hamilton in the top 30. James Paolo, Matt Barnett, Daniel Nance, Matt Hoyland, Danny Ware, Jamal Gandor, the Lebanese driver, in 36th place. And then we've got Ashley Brooks, Alex Conrads, Russell Jakes, Stephen Donnelly, Joseph Preston and Danny Svitzer in 42nd places. So this is going to be very interesting, I think, James. John Breitenbach will be hoping to get a very nice march here away from Robin Aston, but Robin Aston himself, he's in for a really good haul of points in the Evo class. He won't want to throw it away. Yeah, he's got to be careful, but we'll have to see how careful he will be. We're going to get ready for race 2, and John Breitenbach will lead us away here at Watkins Glen. Christian Brega may be going for the inside line at turn 1 here on Robin Aston, and indeed will take P2 away from the Evo driver. Thomas Pugh just behind him, Joe Glass and Paul Collishaw going side by side. I think Joe Glass going to make the move on Paul Collishaw as they make their way through the S's up towards the back straight, but John Breitenbach with a dream getaway as we get down towards the back straight. Thomas Pugh looking at Joe Sparrow and Jamie Rees going side by side, but it is much closer than it was in race 1 from a lot of these front guys, but John Breitenbach is away at the front.
Yeah, he is. He's away and gone. He did what he needed to do here as well. You can see they're further back. They're 2, 3, even trying at some points to be 3 or 4 wide, but Breitenbach making it through, doing the jump at the beginning. Aston picked his battle, decided he wasn't going to fight with Nobrega here as well. It looks like Matt Barnett, Stephen Donnelly have gone off the side of the circuit as well. Stephen Donnelly looks like he has crashed here, which is never good at the moment. Enquiries still holding on with Joe Glass there as well. Glass has got Lucchese coming at him as well here, and let's see how this one happens and see how it pans out. But for these guys at the moment, well, they might be okay, but they've got the fact that they've got Yannis Albert in 12th place coming through at them as well.
Yeah, Peter Cox trying to defend there from Alex Fretwell just behind, but getting close to the back of Yannis Albert as well, as they'll now make their way back to the start-finish straight. They're coming through turn 9, turn 10, 11 are remaining on this opening lap of race 2, but John Breitenbach, he's got away, but not by much to Tristan de Nobrega, because he really is gaining here, maybe looking for the move. Of course, de Nobrega's teammate is Luke Lucchese, who took P2 in race 1, but he's coming to the pit lane along with Peter Cox very, very early here, maybe tactical to try and get themselves out of any kind of dirty air. But John Breitenbach trying to defend, but around the outside, Tristan de Nobrega, what a move there, sweeps around the outside and takes the lead here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, he does. Nobrega there moved his way up from 3rd. He's now in that 1st place. Breitenbach right behind him as well. So hopefully for Breitenbach, he will be able to hold on. Robin Aston doing what Robin Aston needed to do here. He's keeping in front of these guys, and that's all that matters at the moment, is to stay in front of the people behind so he doesn't end up getting into where Joe Glass is in that bit of territory as well. So hopefully we might have a nice clean race, and we'll just have to see how it all pans out. Robin Aston, I bet you he's desperately hoping it will be clean as well. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I think maybe what we're seeing here from the guys that pitted early, particularly Luke Lucchese, it's possible that he's looking for that undercut in terms of he can get himself out of that dirty air, get himself out from behind those cars that he may be faster than, to try and pound the lap times in, try and come out ahead of the guys around him for when they make their pit stops. Maybe a move here further back. I think that could be Joe Sparrow here. Or could it be Joe Sparrow? I'm not too sure. As they run through, could be Jamie Rees actually. I think it was Jamie Rees as they get through the hill, but it's still de Nobrega who leads us away. And we've got Jean Breitenbach just in behind Robin Aston, holding his own at the moment in P3, but they are side by side. It's Jamie Rees and Robert Pugh now currently fighting away for what is P5 and P6 in this race, I should say, as they will come through the final corner for the 2nd time in this race too. But Tristan de Nobrega stretching his legs at the moment, trying to gain as much time away as he can. And look at that, a 44.3 when no one else in the top 10 was in the 44s. But Yannis Albert as well, 44.3. He really does look fast in this race, even in some traffic.
Yeah, and when you're Yannis Albert though, when you're that type of driver, you can look class in any form of traffic, you know. And he obviously, as we know, is a class driver. As I say, I knew him from when he was in Brabham Motorsport or Brabham Esports a long while ago there as well, as they go 2 wide here as well. Nakari makes it through. Thomas Pugh does make it, Colin Shaw makes it through as well. Demey, Albert and Glass. So Glass has lost a bit of time. Actually, he's lost quite a chunk of time to Aston up in front. Aston's 4 seconds up the road at the moment in the Evo class battle. So for him, he's now just got to try and make up as many positions as he can over the next few laps.
Yeah, he's just got to be careful not to fall back into the clutches of Harry Mitchell and Javier Talavera realistically here, because we've mentioned it with Robin Aston. He chose his paddle. He decided just to wait in behind the front 2 battling away, and it's serving him well at the moment. Still up pretty much where he started. Joe Glass struggling a little bit with those guys. who were, in fairness, much quicker than anybody else in race 1, particularly the likes of Yannis Albert and Luke Lucchese, but he's currently sitting in a nice position. He's just got to be careful how he goes about it here, but still, the Darragh leads from right back from Robin Aston as they will make their way through, down towards turn 1 once again. But that lead for Dylan Darragh, it's just stretching and stretching and stretching at the moment. 1.3 seconds is his margin. Fastest lap, I think, from him. Although I feel like I saw a 43.3 from, I think it was, who was it? Ooh, was it? It's at a pit stop maybe for Yannis Albert.
Yeah, Albert's gone in.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say, it wasn't on the side there. I was wondering where he'd gone, but yeah, coming to the pit lane. But I think he is definitely setting a very strong pace as well. But this is developing nicely, this race, isn't it? I think early pit stops, we'll have to see where Yannis Albert comes out in relation to Luke Lucchese and see if Lucchese's strategy of undercutting by as much as he possibly could is going to work for him.
I'm interested to see where Lucchese comes into the whole kind of scenario. He has come out in front of Yannis Albert. Albert's there. Lucchese's just up the road, so Lucchese's pit lap, what was it, I think he went in, didn't he, early as well, so I think overall,
yeah, lap 1.
Yeah, he went in at lap 1, so he has gained positions, but he has got a lot of people in front of him who he's relying on there, as David Weir is unfortunately in the bus stop. I've got a funny feeling that's going to be hitting the bumps on the left-hand side here. Yep, there you go. You get that little bit wrong just by about an inch or a millimetre, and you cause yourself trouble. So unfortunately for David Weir there. James Bostock, boss man himself, don't tell me you've done the same thing, sir. He looks like he has jumped back to the pits as well. Oh no, he just carries on. I think that might have had something to do with his earlier incident that he did have a little bit earlier on. So it looks like it could be the end of the evening for Mr. Bostock here as well. As we can see, there's a very smashed up looking car, but Joe Sparrow in the mix with Robin Aston and Henry and Nakari as well. So yeah, let's see how it all goes on. People pitted early, people pitted late, and we've got Glass and Collishaw right next to each other.
Yeah, Collishaw trying to replicate what Dylan Darragh did, I think, at the start of lap 2. He's done a very good job at trying, because he's got the move very nicely done here on Joe Glass, and he is ahead of Glass. I think he set the fastest time in class just a moment ago, but we'll have to see if he can work his way through. The strategy for Luke Lucchese seems to have worked well, as you mentioned. He's come out a few seconds ahead of Albert, and if they can continue to gain here, the question is how far up can they find themselves? I mean, Yannis Albert wasn't too far behind, particularly the top 5 in this race, the likes of Henry Nakari and Joe Sparrow. So even try and undercut those guys, but we'll have to see. There's still a long way to go. 22 minutes here, but they're going to be fighting over every point they can, as that is, I think. No, this isn't Joe Glass defending, is it? Or is it? Because Henry Nakari, I think this is.
No, Robin Aston and Joe Sparrow.
And that's it. Oh, as we see, is this Henry Nakari to the inside? Yes, it is Henry Nakari to the inside as they come through in towards the heel. Nakari has made up a position there as he will try and get through on. I think this is Joe Sparrow. Yes, this is Joe Sparrow. Now on the inside, he's going to get that move very nicely done, I think, on the exit. Yeah, there's not too much that Sparrow can do, but Nakari still just about in there. Aston, as you said, still lurking, still trying to find a way. If these two come together, he can just fly through, and a big moment for Joe Sparrow, nearly pile driving himself into the wall, but just about surviving. He will go on to yet another lap without facing the barriers. So, working well at the moment for Joe Sparrow. But these guys are so close together at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see whether all this fighting is going to cost them to the likes of Luke Lucchese and Yannis Albert.
I don't know. They're down in, where are they? 26th and 27th at the moment, right? So they've got time, but they've also got a lot of the field in front of them. You know, Lucchese and Albert here, they've got a lot of the field in front of them, and they're relying on a lot of them to be in the pit lane. You know, we're looking at pit lane times around between about 40 to 45 seconds. They've got about 43 to the front guy, but we know obviously they're moving, so there's a little bit less involved with that. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just excited to see how far they can get, but I think, yeah, it's going to be a bit of a problem.
I mean, they are very close together, aren't they? I think Yannis Albert might go for the move here on the inside of Luke Lucchese, and yes, he will. They're going to be side by side down towards the chicane, and Yannis Hubert, I should say, is going to hold the inside line, and it's going to be difficult for Lucchese to fight this one, and indeed backs out a little bit, which means that Yannis Hubert now is leading this train of pitters so far. And they've got a nice gap, 10 seconds, up to Ashley Brooks ahead of them, who hasn't yet hit. So, you know, even if they gain 4 or 5 seconds a lap, I mean, Ashley Brooks, the likes of them, could come in by that point. They've just got to hope that they don't get held up here, because that is really going to be the crux for these guys. You would have to say Ewan Stitchbury's not far behind these guys either. Peter Cox putting himself a little bit in the mix as well. But, I mean, there's trains at the front, isn't there? There's trains for days. John Brightback, all the way back to Thomas Pugh. There's a train. Christophe Demay is pitting. I think he is the last of that top 4 to come into the pit lane. Oh, no, he was fighting with Henry Nackery, wasn't he, in race 1. Either way, he finished in P3, and he's now coming to the pit lane. We'll have to see where he does pull himself out. But Tristan Darragh, whilst all this is going on in terms of the pit lane battle, he's just stretching his legs. He's got 4.1 seconds out in front.
Yeah, he's flying, right? Isn't he, at the end of the day? He is absolutely flying. He's doing a great job, and he needs to, you know, carry on doing what he's doing. And I think for him, it's just about making sure he can get about his business. And I think that would be the best thing for him here as well, is to make sure that he can get about his business and just make sure he doesn't have any issues. So let's just see how it all pans out here as well. And we'll just have to find out where and how it goes. I think that's going to be the biggest thing for a lot of these drivers, is making their way through on this reverse grid. Is about finding out how they're going to get on once more. So hopefully there won't be any issues, but me and you both know that there could be. So who knows, you know, all in all.
Absolutely. I mean, looking at this gap, the falling between Albert and Lucchese, he has dropped off the back. He wasn't really more than a second, or if ever he was more than a second, behind Yannis Hubert in race 1. I didn't see it, but he's just fallen away on this last lap and a half from the back of Yannis Hubert. He's absolutely miles away, so I don't know what's gone on there for Lucchese. Maybe Albert's pace is just absolutely stellar, but it doesn't look like Lucchese is going along too nicely at the moment. We will have to see what their lap times are when they cross the line. But I mean, last lap round, Albert 1.6 seconds clear of Luke Lucchese, who himself was 6-7 tenths slower than the likes of Ewan Stitchbury, Peter Cox and Marcel Breitenbach. So, no, I'm not too sure if Lucchese's got a little bit of damage possibly here. Either way, we've got lots of pitters now. It's that kind of phase of the race that we saw pitters in the last race. 12, 13, 14 minutes. So I think next lap we might see quite a lot of the front guys coming as well. Yeah, well, Albert's going to pass a lot of the guys that have just gone in. Lucchese needs to kind of get on a bit of a wriggle on, because there is people coming out the pits together here as well. As you can see, Talavera is on his way out. Stitchbury, it was the further up the field in front of that. I think that was Thomas Pugh, Joe Glass and Jamie Rees here were fighting it out as well. So they had to try and maintain a nice little gap at the same time here again, but Graham Matthews has not been in, and at the moment Yannis Hubert is not the highest pitter. That is gone to Christophe Demay in the Porsche. He is, I believe, I've got him as the highest one that's pitted so far here. And you can see that gap that we talked about from Ashley Brooks. It was 10 seconds when we mentioned a couple of laps ago. It's come down to 3.3 and really closing fast. But with Christophe Demay ahead of Yannis Hubert, he can try and manage that gap. But we saw Hubert past Lucchese with ease. But there's now 3 cars between Hubert and Lucchese. So, yeah, a nightmare couple of laps for Luke in the RDSA car. Of course, his teammate Tristan Darragh currently leading the race. But that'll be little compromise for him, little sympathy in terms of the fact he wants as many points as he can get, particularly for his championship battle, being in P2 coming into Watkins Glen. Either way, we've got Nackery, Colashaw and Gary Mitchell into the pit lane now, as there's now only going to be maximum of 11 cars left out on track if everyone else goes through, which I think they are. So, oh no, as Russell Jakes comes in and Ashley Brooks, so that'll free up a bit of space in front of Christophe Demay, so he may have caught those guys this time around if they stayed out. But he's not really got to worry about the traffic in front of him. He's got to worry about Yannis Hubert behind him, because he is closing and closing fast here. 6 tenths on the last lap.
Albert is making strides into the back of Demey here as well. You can see him. He's like Albert the lion, and Demey's the injured gazelle of the outback of South Africa, and Albert needs his dinner, and at the moment Demey is it, and that is the situation here for Yanis Albert and Demey. They've got to Demey's either got to do one thing. He's either got to hold on like an absolute trooper and see if he can bring Thomas Pugh and Nakri and Glass and Reese behind him into this battle, or he's got to let him go because he doesn't want to get held up from him. That would be the problem if they start bringing the others in, but you also got to think about what's best for your race at the same time.
Because there always is that risk of, you know, fighting to let the other guys back, and he'll be able to see that Thomas Pugh has got Nakari, Glass, Reese, Lucchese, Polish 63 himself on the back of him. So, you know, there is all that option. If you let Yanis Albert through, you can maybe try and use a bit of slipstream. And even if you can't use the slipstream because he just pulls away, it can protect you from falling into that group. I mean, if they start fighting, if Nakari and Glass try and pass Pugh, that could really help out Christophe Demey can kind of stay away from that group. And definitely Yanis Albert, but he's looking keen to get through. If Christophe Demey can stay ahead of Yanis Albert, with Yanis Albert being within half a second for half of this race, 15 minutes, that's going to be an absolutely Herculean effort to try and keep him behind. Tristan Darragh, though, he's leaving the pit lane. Yeah, he will hopefully... He's clear of these guys, but the gap isn't massive, is it? As they make their way through turn 1, you're looking at about 4.5 seconds. So, with the pace of Yanis Albert, that's closable, is it not?
You would have thought so, wouldn't you? Because Albert last time out was on the 144. Actually, let's give Darragh a little bit of a time here to get round at this lap, because if he can get round this lap and the next one, we'll be able to see where he's at time-wise with what could Demey and Albert are doing here as well. Nakri and Pugh and Glass and Rita, they're still scrapping it out as well. Glass here did jump Robin Ashton after his pits. Glass did jump Ashton after his pits, and he has now taken the front lead in the Evo class. So unfortunately for Ashton there, something went wrong somewhere within that pit stop.
Yeah, he's got them all the way down. I mean, Joe Glass, he's just going to pull away again in the Evo class. He's been so good this evening, so consistent. P5, I mean, really putting it up there with the Premier class guys, and of course Premier and Evo class based off of I rating, so very much outperforming his I rating in some regards by finishing P5 in race 1, and fully deserved to be at least P2 in race 2, is where it started in terms of class. So yeah, he's going to be very pleased with how tonight is going, and the Glass Tech Racing duo, I think as well, are going to be very pleased about how tonight is going. But you know, still 12 minutes to go. A lot can happen in 12 minutes, and Luke Lucchese is hoping that a lot of overtaking can happen for him, because he's got a few cars in front of him, but at the moment he just feels like he can't really find his way through at the moment. He's falling back a little bit from Stitchbury. There's yeah, he just hasn't had the pace I think we've seen in race 1, and I'm just a little bit puzzled by that. You can see there he's just had a 45.1. But the cars around him are setting time 44.6 for Stitchbury, 47 for Coldstream, 44.9 for Peter Cox behind him, so just a bit off the pace at the moment.
Yeah, sometimes the thing is as well, some tracks just might not suit him. You know what I mean? And Watkins Glen might not suit him here as well. So it's one of them things, isn't it? That they, oh, don't. Oh. I thought him and Peter Cox were going to come in together there. As you can see him battling it out here as well. So hopefully at the end of the day he will be able to make his way forward. But again, it just might not suit him. And he's been in a lot of battles, hasn't he? He hasn't just been able to sit back and drive his race. He's been involved with battles all the way around. He's trying to come through the field as well. Demey's a little further up, Albert's further up. So he feels added pressure to try and get up the front. And then there's all of these things going on, so you've got to be mindful that, you know, he's within himself, he might be having issues.
Yeah, we'll try and work it out. I mean, either way, I think he's going to be pleased with how it's going in terms of picked up very good solid points in race 1. He's still picking up decent points in race 2, albeit not as many as he would have liked, but he's realistically thinking, I think, at the moment, in terms of trying to defend P2 in the championship. Yannis Albert is really going to be stretching his legs at the front of this championship. The gap was 82, will almost certainly be over 100 by the time we leave Watkins Glen and go across the Pacific to Suzuka. But he's got to be defending his position from particularly Ewan Stitchbury. Thomas Pugh is in P4 in the championship, 99 points back, but Stitchbury is only about 30 points back. So that's the battle he's going to have to be thinking about, and he's only one position behind Stitchbury. So damage limitation, I think, certainly for Luke Lucchese, but you know, he definitely wants to be leading this race, or at least further up ahead of this train that is currently bottled up behind Jamie Rees. But we will have to wait and see. He's really starting to lose time to Stitchbury though. 3 seconds now. Peter Cox might come through. That gap is now under a tenth of a second, I think. Peter Cox has backed out as they come into the chicane. But I mean, this battle between Demai and Albert, 5 minutes of those 15 have passed. Demai's still ahead, so you know, there's a chance.
There's a good chance if he can hang on. The problem is how you drive defensively. So you've got the option of you either drive defensively or you don't. And that's the thing. He's got to be figuring out what's going to be best. We've got this little battle here for Lucchese, Cox and Fretwell. They're all getting close. Fretwell's just going to bounce to try and have a go at the inside of Cox. He's got that inside line coming down into turn 8. Down through the right-hander. Fretwell on the left-hand side there in that red Ferrari. Cox goes in deep on the brakes. Fretwell nearly gets him on the exit there as well, but just ends up having to sit in behind as they come through turn 9. Good evening, Phil, in YouTube chat. Sorry, I just missed your message there as well, but welcome in. But yeah, there's still time for DeMay to get overtaken by Albert, but it's how he copes with the overtake if it does happen, and what's going to be the best way of dealing with it. Is it going to be better just to let him go, or is it going to be better to hold on? So 9 minutes, might be able to do it.
I think the two men who are most keen on Christophe Demay going defensive into every single corner are Tristan de Nobrega and Henry Nackery here, because de Nobrega can pull away and Henry Nackery then has a sniff at P2. But I think for Demay, if Albert is looking like he's going for the move, you've got to consider, is it worth it? I mean, he looks like he's got enough pace to really defend here. I mean, it's been 7 minutes, 8 minutes or so since Albert got within 5/10, and he's still holding him at arm's length. Albert really hasn't had too much of a look. I mean, there is a possibility that he's just sitting and waiting, but I mean, if you were Yannis Albert and you backed your pace, you just think that you can get there on Demay, you can try and chase after de Nobrega at the front, who himself has driven an excellent race, hasn't he? Started P3 after finishing, or started P4, one of the two, but he finished P10, P11 in race 1. But he's picked up his opportunity where he needed to. He's currently leading the race comfortably and currently taking home maximum points. 65 would be great for the championship and for the team as he fights for the championship with Luke Lucchese. Yeah.
At the end of the day, way the rough for the smooth, you know. But Albert's done great. For Nobrega, he's had a stellar race. He has literally done what he needed to do. He got away, he got in and out of the pits before he got done, and he's now leading the way, and he's leading by 4 seconds. What's worse is, he's still doing times almost faster than the guys behind him at the moment. I'm just waiting for their last lap times to come in, and he is faster. 44.1 for de Nobrega, 44.2 for DeMay, and a 44.1 for Albert. So at the moment, here as well, out of all the times, Tristan de Nobrega is the fastest one. Thomas Pugh there just about, I think it was Joe Brass just going through up through the S's, and then Alex Fretwell and Peter Cox are still battling it out here as well. As Lucchese, he's lost a couple of positions. Fretwell, Aston and Brettenbach all seem to have gone past him here as well.
I feel like there may be damage on that car. Something must be up.
Yes.
I mean,
yes, there is.
I mean, even from when he got overtaken by Albert, I mean, he's just had such a pace drop. Oh yeah, that won't help, will it?
No.
Lucky not to be collected either. It's very difficult to get back onto the circuit there as well, because you pull right back onto the racing line. Luckily, enough of a gap to pull himself back cleanly there. But yeah, I mean, he was matching pace in race 1 lap after lap with Yannis Albert, but it just doesn't seem like he's had it after Albert got through. Maybe there's a little bit of damage on that car. I'm not too sure. either way, his teammate is picking up the mantle. He is, as I mentioned, the fastest driver on track at the moment, and he's the one picking up the points in race 2 for the team. So, you know, it's not complete disaster. There's still a silver lining in the cloud for Luke Lucchesi, as we now see Fretwell and Peter Cox fighting. They've been fighting for the last couple of laps, haven't they? But they've now got Jamie Rees to try and get through.
Yeah, Jamie Rees is in front of these guys, Fretwell, Cox as well. They would have obviously had the third option in there of Lucchesi. You saw what Lucchesi did here. 5 minutes, well, 4 minutes, let's say 4 minutes 30, just to be absolutely, you know, guesswork. But Jean Rees is doing a great job at the moment in that BMW. He's gone on defence into turn 1 now. Fretwell coming in, sitting behind him. Cox trying to sit behind that as well. There's further battles down as well. In the Evo class, we've got Matt Barnett, Dennis Kohler, Gareth Newton and Ashley Brooks. They're all fighting it out at the moment for 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th in class. Robert Hamilton has gone into the pits, so he is definitely going to drop down the order going into the pits this late on as well, which would not be another expected scenario. And Stitchbury's still got Collishaw in front of him, and then Rees has still got Fretwell and Cox. So, yeah, a lot happening over the last 4 minutes here, Ewan, and I think it's, Darragh, so I think it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I think it could be an interesting one. It might have been a drive-through there, possibly, for Robert Hamilton, because he's not lost as much time as he would have done if he stopped in the box. So, possible drive-through there, I think, for him. I can't see why else he would have gone to the pit lane and not stopped, apart from maybe just lost a bet or something. But, yeah, he's dropped right back to P13, you know, losing points that he maybe otherwise could have got. He's promoted Hussein and Sarika Dessler, currently up to P3 in class at the moment, back in P21. So, currently going well for him. Not a position I think many people would have expected him to have been at the start of this race. I think he was down P89 in the class when they started this race, but kept his nose out of trouble and he's done very well. Danny Spitzer as well started right at the back of the field, coming up to P23. So he's nearly carved himself halfway through the field here, and doing very well himself, currently in P5 in class. So there's some good stories there. I mean, James Pallow, another name, looking down. He's a driver who's had a couple of difficult races so far this season, but doing well here at Watkins Glen in race 2. Fretwell, though, is who we're looking at, and he's going to be making a move to the inside of Jamie Rees into turn 1, and he's got that one done and dusted. Jamie Rees might try and come back at him through the S's up towards the chicane, but Peter Cox is lurking in here as they run their way through the S's. Oh, my word. These three are very, very close together and close to the barriers as they make their way down this back stretch. Can Jamie Rees get through? He's got the slipstream, but a very, very defensive line from Alex Fretwell will probably see him defend this position. Indeed it will. Peter Cox looking up the inside. Ooh, I thought there could have been a little bit of contact there, but they all make it through. And Alex Fretwell, very nice move from him. He's now up into P9. Yeah,
Rees didn't do himself any favours there. He got himself hung out on the outside, which allowed Cox to muscle in behind Fretwell. So at that moment in time, Rees was already offline, and there's only really one fast line through the bus stop, but that is literally almost hitting the barrier on the right-hand side on the entry. So that, you know, they've got to make sure that if Cox or Rees is going to try that again, they've got to make sure they're in the right position, because at the moment, Fretwell made the best of that situation, and that was basically the story of that brief moment there for Rees. He was on the outside. Cox went and did exactly what he's doing now into the bus stop and put him offline. So now he's going to have to try and work out, okay, I don't really want to be on that outside going into the bus stop. It clearly doesn't work at the moment.
It's such a far chicane. I mean, the second you get onto the outside, I mean, you can look for the move around the outside, but it's just pure suicide. I mean, you're either going to be bouncing yourself across that curb and spinning, as we've seen a couple of guys do, or you're just going to risk your front end being swiped across when the car in front just decides to turn left, because, you know, presuming that that's his corner, we'll just go for it. So, I mean, you really got to be pretty much almost fully ahead on the outside to make that move stick. Even if you're halfway ahead, it can be pretty difficult to go all the way around the outside there, with it being so tricky. But he's done a nice job of keeping close as Jamie Rees to Peter Cox, but I don't think he'll be close enough to try either the outside or the inside line down into the bus stop. And no, he won't, but I do believe this very well could be the final lap of the race. Time's ticking, 30 seconds left, and I don't think there's enough time for Tristan de Nobrega to make his way back to the start-finish line, so this could very well be it. I noticed Yanis Albert has dropped back behind Henry Nackery here. So, yeah, something must have happened there to Yanis Albert. We will see now as Henry Nackery just pulls his way through. I mean, bit of a weird one. Yanis Albert's pace has dropped off the last few laps. He was right up the back, as we said, of Christophe Demay.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he got a slowdown. I'm wondering if he had a slowdown coming out of turn 1, and that's why he had to back that off. And that could be why Nackery got through there as well. But this is going to be the checkered flag. He's waved the checkered flag directly at Birdie. Nebrega did back off enough there, Darragh, to catch us all out because he went over the line and took the win.
It's always nice when you got the advantage, isn't it? That you can back off and just think, yeah, I want to take a lap off this race. He started race 1, P39. He wins race 2. It's a fantastic result in the end for Trissi de Nobrega, and he takes home maximum 65 points here in race 2. Christophe Demay, again, good consistency from him in P2. I do actually think he might be the driver to come away with the most amount of points here this evening, because I believe he finished P3 in race 1, and P2 in race 2 will give him 99 points. Compared to Albert's first and fourth, which is 97. So yeah, Christophe Demay again, not winning the race, but consistency. It's exactly what you need in a championship like this. Henry Nackery third, beats Yanis Albert just about. And Joe Glass, once again, a fantastic 5th place. He started back in P8, P9, but he recovered ahead of the other guys to finish in P5. Fantastic result. Thomas Pugh, Ewan Stitchbury, Paul Colishaw, Alex Fretwell and Peter Cox in the top 10. But, I mean, good results in Evo from Robin Aston and Hussein Sarakadesla as well in this order. But, yeah, I mean, Tristan de Nobrega classed the field in that race, wasn't he, James?
Yeah, absolutely. He did what he needed to do. He got through, got out in front and went. Then he come into the pits, got out again in front of Demay, in front of Albert, in front of Lucchese. And he could just settle down. And that's the thing. Once he settled down, he was fine to go as he was because he didn't have that issue. Caramel livery machine, love that one. He didn't have that issue of anybody chasing him down, so he could kind of relax a little bit. So, for de Nobrega, he did an absolutely stellar job. But here are the results for you, sir.
Here we go then. Tristan de Nobrega for the RDSA Esports team comes home to win the race. And yeah, after such a poor qualifying result, he's definitely going to be very pleased with that win. I saw in the chats as well that he'd been in a nasty car crash. So this is a lovely bit of good news for him to try and help get over what was seemingly a nasty incident. But either way, Christophe Demay in P2, most points for a driver this evening overall. And he will walk away very happy, I'm sure. Henry Nackery in P3 and Yanis Albert, race 1 winner, comes home P4 in race 2. Joe Glass again, P5, and a stellar result, another win in Evo class for him. Thomas Pugh, Ewan Stitchbury, with Paul Colishaw, Alex Fretwell, and Peter Cox rounding out the top 10. Jamie Rees, Robin Aston, John Breitenbach, Ryan Ottens, and Luke Lucchese, who just suffered all the way down into P15 in the end in that race. Marcel Breitenbach, James Rankin in 16th and 17th, with just over half a minute off the back of our winner. And then we look back to Joe Sparrow, Daniel Nans and Scott Kostrick, who finishes in P20. Hussein Sarakadesla, 21st, but P3 in that Evo class, with Gareth Matthew and Danny Switzer with a very good result, the Canadian, rising right from the back of the field to P5 in Evo class by the end. James Pallow and Piers Berry in 24th and 25th, with Matt Barnett and Dennis Collar rounding out our top 27. Talavera, Robert Hamilton and Stephen Donnelly round out the top 30, with Russell Jakes, Gary Mitchell, Joseph Preston, Ashley Brooks, Gareth Newton, Chris Keenan and Paul Robson in the top 37. And then it's just a matter of Alex Konrads, Matt Hoyland, Danny Weir and James Bostock. A few of those, particularly Weir and Bostock and Hoyland, who had to retire quite early on in that race. So unfortunate for them. But yeah, what an evening of racing, James. I mean, we had some good results from the likes of Joe Glass. P5 in both races, fantastic. I mean, I think he may even picked up 4th, maybe even the 3rd most amount of points for any driver at all. So fantastic results from him overall.
Yeah, I do fully agree, and I think Glass in general has done an absolutely stellar job. You know, he's been able to keep going on the track. He's had an awesome time. He jumped Aston on Aston's pits as well, so that was always an issue. At the same time, how close was he going to get to Aston? Well, he jumped him, so that was fine for Glass. So he then obviously decided that he was just going to push on, and he did. Once he jumped him, That was it. There was nothing anybody else could do about it. And at the end of the day, Joe Glass has done what Joe Glass needed to do, which was just drive the circuit. He had to drive there, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, and that's exactly how he dealt with it. I mean, Yannis Albert, of course, fast in qualifying, one race one. I think he's in the interview waiting room, so I can drag him in, and we'll have a chat with Yannis, because he was fastest, realistically, across the evening. But Yannis, I mean, P4 in the race, I mean, was that a slowdown penalty towards the end there? We saw you lost out to Henry Nackery.
Hi, good evening. So yeah, Christoph, who did an amazing job, like the entire second race. I had huge pressure on him. He missed turn one a bit last lap, so I tried to get on the inside, going up the S's. And then we have some new damage model spin thing where I clip his rear, an I spin, which doesn't really make any sense. But I'm happy he didn't, because he did a real good job. So yeah.
Yeah, we noticed that you fell off the back of it. We were wondering why. But either way, P1 and P4, I think in the end you've picked up a nice chunk of, 97 points. So still a lot. And you've pulled away from Luke, who finished, I think, further down, P13, P14, or P15 in the end, in race 2. So overall, it's a good day for the championship. We're over 100 points in the lead. And, I mean, at this rate, you'll be wrapping up before we even get to Bathurst.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, because Bathurst is not one of my strong tracks. But yeah, speaking of Luke, huge respect to him for letting me go. I saw he had quite a lot of damage. I wasn't sure why, but I saw that, and he didn't try to fight me to, I don't know, not get me close to Tristan or something. No team games, just he let me through. Super, super nice of him. Huge respect.
That was nice. Yeah, we were mentioning, weren't we, James, that Luke, he just started to fall away a bit. So yeah, damage clearly what was impacting him. But next week, Suzuka, another 1 hour sunset race is. I mean, you said Bathurst isn't a track you're good at, but I mean, you've been good at pretty much every track we've been to so far this season. Where does Suzuka stack up there for you?
It's not a favorite track, but I think my pace is quite alright. Looking at the league, so the 1 hour races are always the best for me, because there's no randomness, no drama with this reverse grid. So it's everything on me. If I do a good job in qualifying, I should be fine for the Suzuka round as well. If I don't, then it's gonna be interesting, yeah.
Yeah, but congratulations again on another win this season, and yeah, good luck for Suzuka next week. Have you got anything to ask Yannis, James?
Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
I think James might be away.
Either way, I'm here. Sorry, I'm here. Is there anyone you want to shout out, buddy, before we let you go?
Yeah, as I said already, Luke, huge respect. Tristan for being. I know he had a tough week, so good job on him getting the win and being here. And Stephen Warkup for finishing up delivery. Good job on that as well. Thank you.
Yes, with the purple wheel rims, the pink wheel rims as well. Exactly. But yeah, congratulations, Yannis. I'm sure we'll probably be speaking to you next week, unless something absolutely absurd happens. But yeah, congratulations, and we might talk to you after Suzuka.
Yep. Thank you. Good evening.
Well, James, there's no one else waiting for an interview, so I think we could probably wrap it up relatively quickly from here. But, I mean, overall, a great evening of racing. It sets up an interesting picture as we head towards Suzuka. But, I mean, Albert and Glass have just kind of consolidated their leads here at the Glen, haven't they?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. They've scored maximum points, and they're happy. And I think that's the thing. That's all they've got to do. Glass with 2 victories, Albert with 1 and a 3rd place, I think it was as well at the end. So all in all, they've done what they needed to do, and they're going to get more points on the board, and hopefully it will carry on as that as well for them next week.
Absolutely. But we will be back in 7 days' time next week at Suzuka for the 1 hour sunset race. It'll be round 6. And of course, Yannis Albert and Joe Glass, as we mentioned, will attend that race as championship leaders. And we'll have to see if they can extend it even further. But thanks to James for being here alongside me, for pushing all the buttons, because that is a job that, it's not the easiest of jobs, especially in a race with so many cars. But thanks to James for doing it so well. But we will be back 7 days' time for the Suzuka race. Thanks for everyone who's watched this evening, but we will see you next week when the Evolution Sim Racing GT3 Championship returns at Suzuka.